For both Republicans and Democrats, the Supreme Court looks to be on the agenda in the midterm elections. Democrats' opinion of the Supreme Court has cratered in the past 3 years, even as Republicans' respect for the institution has risen, a new HuffPost, YouGov survey finds. Overall, 41% of Americans approve of the Supreme Court's job performance, while 36% disapprove. The share of the public that approves is identical to poll results in June 2015, just after the court upheld President Barack Obama's Affordable Care Act. But underneath that steady top-line number is a significant partisan shift. Just 24% of Democrats now approve of the court, down from 64% in 2015. At the same time, Republican support has jumped to 73%, up from 23% 3 years ago. 52% of Democrats now say they view the Supreme Court as too conservative. Among Republicans, 42% say it's about right, although 36% say it's too liberal. Americans, in both parties, hold an overall positive view of retiring Justice Anthony Kennedy, to the extent that they have an opinion. Among the full public, 38% view him favorably and 20% view him unfavorably, although the plurality say they don't have any opinion. Americans are about evenly split on their preferred timing to seat Kennedy's replacement, with 35% saying the Senate should hold confirmation hearings this fall and 34% saying the Senate should wait until after the midterm elections. The remaining 31% say they don't know. Another poll, released Monday by Quinnipiac, found a similar divide, with voters split 46 to 48% on whether or not the Senate should consider a nomination pre-election, reminded that Republicans blocked Judge Merrick Garland from receiving a hearing. In 2016, Americans are also split on whether Democrats would be justified in employing the same tactic. 33% say they would be, 35% don't think it would be justified, and 31% aren't sure. February 2017, Americans said by a slim 5-point margin that Garland's experience wasn't enough to justify Democrats in blocking a hearing for then-Judge Neil Gorsuch. About 3/4 of Donald Trump voters say both that confirmation hearings should be held prior to the midterms, and that Democrats would not be justified in blocking Kennedy's replacement. Contrast, 68% of Hillary Clinton voters say that confirmation hearings should wait until after the midterms, and 76% say that Democrats would be justified in blocking a hearing for Trump's nominee. Among both Trump and Clinton voters, nearly 3 out of 4 now say the Supreme Court will be at least somewhat important to their midterm vote. But Clinton voters are 11 points more likely than Trump voters to call the court a very important issue in their voting. 63% of Clinton voters also say they believe Kennedy's retirement will have a lot of impact on American politics, compared to just 39% of Trump voters, and 18% of non-voters and third-party voters. All that could indicate a shift in who's most likely to prioritize the issue in the upcoming elections. In exit polling after the 2016 presidential election, voters who called Supreme Court appointments the most important factor in their vote went by a 15-point margin for Trump. It also could mark a change from the intensity gap of the last Supreme Court fight, which saw Gorsuch's nomination overwhelmingly supported by conservatives but no comparable level of progressive resistance. But whether the fight over the Supreme Court is more to motivate Trump's supporters or his opponents in the midterms, and the extent to which it even matters once the elections roll around, depends on factors largely still to be determined, including the timing of the confirmation process and Democratic leaders' response to the eventual nominee. The HuffPost, YouGov poll consisted of 1,000 completed interviews conducted June 27 to 28 among U.S. adults using a sample selected from YouGov's opt-in online panel to match the demographics and other characteristics of the adult U.S. population. HuffPost has teamed up with YouGov to conduct daily opinion polls. You can learn more about this project and take part in YouGov's nationally representative opinion polling. More details on the poll's methodology are available here. Most surveys report a margin of error that represents some, but not all, potential survey errors. YouGov's reports include a model-based margin of error, which rests on a specific set of statistical assumptions about the selected sample rather than the standard methodology for random probability sampling. If these assumptions are wrong, the model-based margin of error may also be inaccurate. Click here for a more detailed explanation of the model-based margin of error. Download. Do you have information you want to share with HuffPost? Here's how.